On an April afternoon in 1974, amid the charred remains of a small brush fire in Florida, a family happened upon a smooth, metallic sphere gleaming under the sunlight. And from that very moment, strange things began to happen. So fasten your seatbelt, because what comes next is anything but ordinary. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. On a warm spring afternoon in 1974, the Betts family was walking around their vast property on Fort George Island in northern Florida when an unusual glint of light drew their attention. Lying before them was a perfectly round, silver-bright object, resting quietly among the charred grass. It wasn't large, only about 8 inches in diameter, but it weighed over 20 pounds. Its outer shell was strangely flawless, smooth, polished, without a single scratch, without any sign of rust or damage. No one in the family could explain where it had come from or why it was there in the first place. Some guessed it might be an old cannonball from the Spanish colonial era. Others thought it was a piece of industrial machinery that had been discarded. But whatever it was, the sphere carried an undeniable and inexplicable pull. At first, the Betts family believed they had simply stumbled upon an old and curious object, nothing more than an interesting relic. They brought it home, thinking of it as a unique decoration. But what they didn't realize was that this seemingly harmless object was the beginning of one of the strangest and most enduring mysteries ever recorded on American soil. A story that would soon attract the attention of journalists, scientists, and UFO enthusiasts, and eventually, even the eyes of the United States government. In the first few days after bringing the sphere home, the Betts family didn't pay it much attention. Despite its unusual shape and construction, they assumed it was nothing more than an old relic, perhaps something that had fallen off a piece of industrial equipment or been left behind from some earlier era in history. But then, the first strange thing happened. At the time, Terry Betts, the eldest son in the family, was sitting in the living room, playing his guitar as he often did. That's when he noticed something odd. As the sound of the guitar filled the room, the sphere began to vibrate, just slightly, almost imperceptibly. At first, Terry chalked it up to simple mechanical resonance, the kind of subtle vibration you'd expect when sound waves bounce off a hollow metal surface. But within minutes, what he witnessed went beyond anything that conventional physics could easily explain. The sphere wasn't just vibrating, it seemed to be keeping rhythm, not randomly, but in a way that felt deliberate, almost as if it was responding to the music. As the family began to observe more closely, they quickly realized the sphere wasn't just reacting to sound. It could move. The object began to roll slowly across the floor, as if pulled by an invisible force. And more strangely still, it would change direction mid-motion, without hitting anything at all. It even rolled gently up a slanted surface, defying the very pull of gravity that should have dragged it down. It didn't take long before word of the moving sphere began to spread. Within less than a week of the first strange occurrences, the Betts family home started drawing attention from all directions. A local newspaper in Jacksonville ran the first story under the headline, "The Strange Sphere, a New Mystery at the Betts Castle," alluding not only to the strange phenomenon itself, but also to the house, long a source of rumors in the area. The Betts residence, isolated on Fort George Island, was no ordinary house. It had once been a long-abandoned mansion with classical architecture and more than a few whispered tales about something lingering in its quiet halls. When the Betts family purchased the property, they renovated it completely, transforming it into a spacious and peaceful home. And unlike the kinds of people often found at the center of stories like these, Jerry Betts was not superstitious, nor was she easily swayed. She was, in fact, a prominent figure in the local community, running a mid-sized transportation company and known widely as a sharp, no-nonsense businesswoman. She had taken part in various civic initiatives and even appeared in the media as a spokesperson for small business owners in the region, which is precisely why her public confirmation of the strange behavior surrounding the sphere made it impossible for the public to dismiss the story outright. To many observers, if a woman like Jerry Betts, someone who had a reputation to uphold, was willing to put her credibility behind such a hard-to-believe account, then maybe the sphere really wasn't just a harmless ball of steel after all. Soon, The media came pouring in. Reporters, photographers, independent documentarians, and even those who claimed to be experts in extraterrestrial phenomena began showing up at the family's door. Some brought audio recorders, electromagnetic sensors, or handheld film cameras. All of them wanted to witness the sphere in motion, just as the rumors had described. And remarkably, more than a few of them walked away with looks of astonishment on their faces. As the first reports about the sphere spread beyond the borders of Florida, the story began to draw attention not only from the media, but also from branches of the United States government. Among them, the agency that showed the most direct and overt interest was the U.S. Navy. Some high-ranking officials in the region speculated that the sphere could be the remnant of an undisclosed test, or perhaps a surviving piece of Cold War-era military surveillance equipment. With the full consent of the Betts family, the sphere was transported to Cecil Field Naval Air Station in Jacksonville for a preliminary examination. There, technicians began by performing X-ray imaging on the object. They hoped the scans might reveal its internal structure, or at the very least, something about its material composition. But what they found only deepened the mystery. Standard X-ray equipment could not penetrate the sphere's outer shell. Though the metallic surface appeared to be stainless steel, its density and reflectivity far exceeded the limits of the scanning instruments at the facility. This forced the team to relocate the sphere to another facility in the same city, one equipped with higher-powered imaging equipment. Only there were the first images of the sphere's interior finally captured. According to the initial internal report, the metallic shell measured roughly half an inch thick, enclosing a hollow chamber. Inside that space, technicians observed 3 smaller metal objects, roughly spherical in shape, along with a small amount of fine powder settled at the bottom, believed to be sand or some unknown particulate matter. The experts refrained from drawing any concrete conclusions, but one thing became clear: the object's internal design didn't match any known commercial or military device. Another detail that drew attention was a small triangular marking etched onto the sphere's surface. Some experts speculated that this marking might be connected to its unusual movement patterns, perhaps acting as a point of slight imbalance that allowed the sphere to roll unpredictably. But that explanation was quickly dismissed, especially by the Betts family and multiple independent witnesses who had observed the sphere firsthand. According to them, the object didn't merely roll. It stopped, changed direction, and appeared to avoid obstacles. None of that could be explained by a simple shift in weight distribution. Once testing was complete, the U.S. Navy released no official findings. When asked by the press, a spokesperson merely stated that the object was not dangerous and not a piece of U.S. military equipment. The public, however, was unconvinced. If it wasn't a military device, they asked, why had the Navy invested so many resources in examining it? That question ignited a wave of speculation. Some suggested the sphere was part of a classified research program that had been lost during operations. Others leaned toward a far more radical theory, that the object hadn't come from any known industrial process on Earth, but might be of extraterrestrial origin. And just as the debate fractured into competing theories, an unexpected figure stepped into the investigation. Someone whose name alone was enough to make both the scientific community and the UFO world stop and take notice. Amid the swirling media attention and unresolved theories, a remarkable figure from the scientific world suddenly stepped into the spotlight. It was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a name instantly recognizable to anyone who had followed the study of unidentified flying objects during the 20th century. Dr. Hynek was a seasoned astronomer who had taught at Northwestern University and had served as the chief scientific advisor for Project Blue Book, the U.S. Air Force's official UFO research program that spanned nearly 2 decades. Though he began his career as a firm rationalist and skeptic, Hynek would eventually become one of the most respected voices calling for serious scientific inquiry into unexplained phenomena. And the moment he expressed interest in the Betts sphere, the tone of the entire discussion shifted. He personally requested to stay at the Betts family home for several days, with a singular goal in mind: to witness the sphere firsthand and observe any of the strange occurrences the family had described. One especially notable moment during his visit came when he asked to spend the night in the same room as the sphere. When asked why, he responded simply, I want to know if it responds when no one is watching. During his stay, Hynek conducted a series of small experiments. He measured the sphere's magnetism, tested its reaction to sound, and carefully documented every motion, vibration, and unusual occurrence. And yet, despite the growing curiosity around his findings, he never released a formal report about the visit. Still, several people who were present during those days confirmed that Hynek had personally witnessed many of the same anomalies the family had described. His involvement also set in motion a chain of notable events. In 1975, the National Enquirer organized a scientific symposium that brought together experts from a range of disciplines, including psychology, physics, and biology. The goal of the event was to evaluate a number of unexplained phenomena. And among the objects selected for examination was the Betz sphere. At the conference, the sphere wasn't just observed, it was subjected to several independent tests. And once again, it was reported to move on its own in inexplicable ways, even rolling uphill at times against the expected pull of gravity. It was there that one attending expert, Dr. James Harder, made a startling claim. He asserted that the X-ray images of the sphere's internal structure revealed small metallic spheres composed of elements with atomic weights beyond anything known, surpassing atomic number 40. Harder went so far as to issue a warning. If anyone were to attempt drilling through the sphere's shell, he cautioned, it could trigger an extreme release of energy, something akin to a nuclear detonation. Some observers proposed that the Betz sphere might be the remnant of an incredibly sophisticated gyroscopic device, a self-stabilizing system that could have been used in a classified military experiment. Its gravity-defying movement, the way it reversed direction against applied force, and its layered internal structure all seem to echo the tightly engineered designs found in inertial guidance systems used in satellites or cruise missiles. Others offered a far more audacious theory, that the sphere didn't come from Earth at all. From their perspective, it was an extraterrestrial probe, sent here to observe the planet discreetly. Meanwhile, an unexpected story from the recent past resurfaced. A local artist named James Durling Jones claimed that in 1971, 3 years before the sphere was discovered, he had transported a large number of similar metal spheres on the roof of his Volkswagen. According to him, one of those may have fallen off somewhere near Jacksonville. He described them as part of an unfinished art installation. Another theory made its way into the newspapers as well. Perhaps the sphere was nothing more than a ball check valve, a standard mechanical component commonly used in heavy industrial systems, such as oil refineries or hydraulic pumps. And so, as public opinion began to polarize, one side insisting it was nothing more than overblown imagination, the other convinced it was proof of a technology far beyond anything humanity had yet grasped, the story took yet another unexpected turn. In 2023, during a public hearing before the United States Senate, the Department of Defense officially released a video captured by a Reaper drone flying over the Middle East. In the footage, a metallic sphere could be seen moving at high speed, hovering in midair, without wings, without any visible propulsion system, and emitting no heat signature. To military analysts, that meant the object was not created by any known form of existing technology. Its shape immediately brought to mind the mysterious sphere discovered on Fort George Island nearly half a century earlier. While the gulf in both space and time between the two events was too vast to draw direct conclusions, the uncanny similarities in both form and physical behavior were enough to raise an unsettling question. Could there be a connection between these objects? And notably, this was not the first time the US military had recorded something similar. Back in 2016, another reconnaissance aircraft operating over Mosul, Iraq, had captured footage of a nearly identical spherical object, one that, again, could not be tracked using conventional radar. While such reports were once buried in secrecy, they are now slowly entering the public domain. At the same time, scientists were beginning to search for answers along a different path. One of the most ambitious efforts took place in 2023, when a team of researchers led by Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb launched an ocean expedition off the coast of Papua New Guinea. Their goal was to recover fragments from a meteor that had fallen into the sea back in 2014. The results exceeded all expectations. After 2 weeks of combing through layers of seabed sediment, The team retrieved hundreds of tiny metallic spheres, each just a few millimeters in diameter, but with a chemical composition unlike anything ever found on Earth. They were composed of nickel, iron, and trace elements, but in proportions and microscopic structures that defied all known geological processes. Some scientists went as far as to call them technological relics, suggesting they could be remnants of an ancient, or perhaps non-human, technology. Even in the field of archaeology, strange spheres have surfaced, though few have paid them much attention. At Teotihuacan, one of the largest ancient ruins in Mexico, archaeologists unearthed hundreds of small spheres beneath the temple of the feathered serpent. Ranging from 1.5 to 5 inches in diameter, they were made of clay, coated in a shimmering layer of pyrite that gleamed like polished metal. They had been placed in a sealed underground chamber, hidden from sight unless the entire temple structure was excavated. From a quiet home in Florida, to the deserts of Iraq, to the depths of the Pacific Ocean, and then back to the buried temples of ancient Mexico. These spheres, with their shared geometry, unusual materials, and unresolved purpose, continue to appear, silent, unexplained, persistent, and they force us to ask a deeper question. Could all of these fragments be quietly forming the outline of a much larger picture, one we've never truly imagined? If this story made you pause and think, or sparked a theory of your own, feel free to share it in the comments below. I'm always ready to read, reflect, and go deeper with you into what has yet to be fully understood. And if you'd like to keep exploring the mysteries that time has quietly left behind, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next mystery.